water in the fountain was still, save for a few remaining drops that dribbled out of the now defunct spout. Katie and her tour group sat together on the floor of the main lobby of MSM Park. They had lost track of how long they had been sitting there waiting for a shuttle to escape. After each second that passed, they grew more and more nervous. At any moment, the goopy monsters from the Noises of Nature exhibit they just escaped could track them down to the lobby and enjoy a fine meal.
When is the bus getting here? We're just sitting ducks out here.
The shuttles run on 15-minute intervals. The next one shall arrive shortly, and we can be on our way.
Lady, can you drop the cheery act? We all almost just died. You especially. How can you keep up the scripted tour spiel?
While in the park, I was trained to keep up a smile, no matter the situation. A frown guarantees a customer won't return.
You're right. I won't be coming back to the park. But it's not because you weren't smiling. It's because it's been overtaken by blood-hungry musical
Katie was on top of the tourists in an instant, nearly knocking them over. She held her hand over their mouth to quiet them.
Please be quiet,
she said, her theme park tone finally starting to slip.
The symbiotes by themselves are fierce hunters. Combined with the various monsters we have in this park, there's no telling how heightened their senses may be.
The group sat quietly and strained their ears, listening, waiting to see if there was anything stalking them from the shadows. They heard nothing through the silence. Even the water fountain stopped dripping. Suddenly, they all heard the sound of something swimming through water. They all whipped around to look at the fountain, but couldn't see anything past the lip. Everyone looked towards one another, trying to silently goad anyone but themselves to go and check it out. Eventually, all eyes landed on Katie, who, at first, pretended not to notice the tour group staring her down. She continued to look away, hoping that someone else would volunteer, but no one moved. With a deep sigh, Katie begrudgingly stood up and cautiously made her way towards the fountain, glancing back towards the group every so often, in hopes someone would tell her to come back. No dice. Katie reached the edge of the fountain and peered over it, and let out a loud gasp. The dorsal fin was cutting through the otherwise still water. Not only that, but the fin seemed to be covered in a dark, gooey substance that seemed to be constantly shifting and slithering around the fin. The fin had appeared to be going in circles that followed the movements of its owner. However, when Katie gasped, the fin turned to face her exact direction. Katie stared at the fin, too terrified to back away from the fountain. Meanwhile, the group of tourists were staring at Katie's back, wondering what she could have possibly seen in the fountain to warrant such an audible noise, despite what she had just scolded one of the tourists for. They wouldn't have to wait long for an answer. In an instant, the fin launched out of the fountain, revealing a large bipedal shark covered head to toe with a symbiote. Katie jumped back in fright, the teeth of the shark just narrowly missing her face as she slipped on some water and fell to the ground. The shark stood on the ledge of the fountain, taking in its meal that just got supersized. Not only did it have 2 legs, which would have been fascinating to the tourist in different circumstances, but the shark was wearing sandals and socks, as well as a red bandana around its neck. Katie slowly backed her way towards the group as she took in the monster before her. She knew she had seen a bipedal shark somewhere in the park, but the park had added so many different exhibits over the years that she couldn't place where the shark was from immediately. Wherever it was from, she knew for a fact that it wasn't from the Noises of Nature exhibit, meaning that the symbiotes had gotten to other areas of the park and began infecting the creatures from other exhibits as well.
Fun fact, it seems things have gotten worse than I expected. We need to get out of here. Immediately. Obviously, the shuttle still hasn't arrived, so we're going to have to improvise. Everyone follow me. Slowly. Katie began to take a slow step to the side, but as soon as she did, the symbiote shark let out a massive growl and began running towards them. Okay, new plan. Run. Katie led the tour group out of the lobby area and through the park, making sure to stay in the lead the entire time to guide the group. Mostly. The bipedal shark was close behind them, jumping on top of abandoned concession stands and souvenir shop roofs, shortening the distance more and more by the second. Katie kept running,
They were almost there. If they made it, they wouldn't just have somewhere to hide, but maybe even have a chance to fight off these monsters. Nearby, Katie saw a secondary path coming off the main road with a sign that read employees only. She made a sharp turn that everyone else almost didn't correct in time as they continued to follow her. At the end of the path was a door that led to the exact room Katie was aiming for. However, she would need a small bit of extra time in order to get it open to let everyone inside. She needed to distract the creature for a little bit. That's when she spotted a loudspeaker and got an idea. She risked a glance back at the group and spotted the tourist who had saved her from the venomized rift close behind her. She called out to him.
Hey buddy, you still got the presenter mic?
Instead of responding, the tourist reached into his back pocket, pulled out the mic, and held it up for her to see.
Perfect. I need you to turn it on, switch it to channel 3, and hold it up to that loudspeaker.
She said as she gestured toward the loudspeaker that was rapidly approaching.
Just like you did in the Noises of Nature exhibit.
There was a look of fear in the tourist's eyes, but he nodded anyway and sped up ahead of her. Katie yelled to the rest of the group.
You all are gonna want to cover your ears, but whatever you do, do not stop running. We need to get to that door.
Katie and the group flew past the tourist with a microphone who was standing by the loudspeaker. As soon as they all passed, he switched on the mic and practically shoved it through the speaker. The feedback was instant. Everyone winced at the discomfort. The symbiote, however, fell to the ground like a stone. The shrieks and screams of pain were worse than the feedback, but nonetheless, everyone kept running. Once they reached the door, Katie started typing in the access code to unlock it. The keypad turned green as she heard the deadbolt slide back and the door opened slightly. She grabbed it and pushed the door the rest of the way open, struggling a bit against its weight. Once it was open, she ushered the group inside. Then she called out to the tourist still holding the microphone, waving for him to join the rest of them. The tourist took a deep breath and began running. After a few feet, he threw the microphone at the loudspeaker, creating one more burst of feedback to stun the shark. The symbiote shark took a few seconds to recover after the feedback finally died down. But when it did, it was as fast and as vicious as before. It closed the distance between it and the tourist like it was nothing. Katie kept waving for him to run faster as the group behind her watched in horror. When the tourist was about 20 feet away from the door, Katie grabbed it and began to pull it closed. The tourist pushed himself and ran faster than he thought he ever could. He ran through the door and into the group, practically knocking them over. Katie pulled the door closed as the shark launched itself forward, managing to jab one of its razor-sharp fins through the small gap before the door closed completely, slicing Katie across her arm. She screamed in pain but continued to pull the door until it was completely closed. The door shut as part of the creature's arm hit the floor. Katie collapsed to the ground, clutching her arm. She tried to hold back the tears through her clenched teeth, but let slip a couple of grunts and whimpers. The guest who had held the microphone to incapacitate the monster approached her. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'd be a lot better if you ran a little faster.
Hey, don't yell at them. You were the one who told them to stay behind and cause the feedback. If you got a problem with how they helped, why don't you create the distraction yourself next time?
Oh, that's a great idea. And how did you all plan to get inside our little safe haven here without me to punch in the code?
Fair enough. What is this safe haven anyway? Katie waited a moment before responding, as if to decide whether these people deserved an answer.
This is a bunker closed off to guest and most regular employees. I was able to get in here because I have a friend that works in the back end of the park. This bunker has all the exhibits that have either been discontinued or are not yet ready to be shown to the public. The creatures here have powers and abilities that are too dangerous to be out in the open. I figured maybe there was a creature in here that could possibly withstand the symbiote's bond and help us fight against them. This way.
Katie began walking deeper into the bunker as the group reluctantly followed. Her outburst made some of them skeptical if she really had their best interests at heart. But without any alternative, they decided it was best to go along with her for the time being. As they moved away from the entrance, none of them noticed a new addition to their group, as the severed fin of a regular shark sat on the floor by the bunker's entrance. Katie led the group down a hall that was lined with unique creatures behind panes of glass. The abundance of creatures seemed to ease the tour group as they stared in awe at the myriad of different creatures that they would never have gotten to see otherwise. Katie, on the other hand, had seen them all countless times before thanks to her friend. She ignored the rest of them, making her way towards the end of the hall, towards the creatures she believed stood the best chance of fighting off the park's symbiotic plague. She stopped in front of a glass case that looked like it was completely empty. The rest of the group caught up with Katie, confused as to why she wanted the empty exhibit. Katie approached the glass and entered her pin to open the door. She put one foot inside and knocked on the inside of the glass, as if trying to get someone's attention.
We need help! Please, help us!
The group started to back away as nothing happened. They might not have had access to open the doors, but surely they'd fare better with any of the corporeal creatures than with Katie and her imaginary friend. Suddenly, there was a small flash of light and a pop in the air, as a purple dog-like creature appeared out of midair behind Katie.
Please don't tap on the glass, Katie. It's annoying.
The dog spoke, though its mouth never seemed to move.
Hey, Cammy, do you think you could help?
Before Katie could finish her sentence, a glob of dark goo shot towards Cammy and latched itself onto her. It began spreading across her face, changing its appearance to look similar to the shark they just escaped.
No!
The symbiote continued to spread over Cammy, but it seemed to be struggling. Then the symbiote began being pulled in the other direction. The symbiote screamed in pain as it was propelled away from Cammy in all directions.
Heh, pesky little things. Oh, Cammy, thank goodness you're okay. But you see, that's our problem. The symbiotes that the park have brought in have gone rogue, and now the entire park is overrun with them. I came to you because I figured you'd be resistant to them. And I was right. Please, we need your help. Sorry, Katie. You know the rules. I will only lend my trust to heroic-type characters. I told you when you called me asking for help with groceries, and when you wanted help cleaning your house. Your present actions have shown me that you have not changed since the last time we spoke. I am sympathetic to your cause, and I do hope you get these people to safety, but that is not for me to deal with. Ciao. Wait!
With that, Cammy popped out of existence again.
Stupid space dog. Alright, so the space dog refused to help us. It's alright, we don't need her anyway. Any of the creatures here would make a great weapon against these monsters. We just have to make sure they don't come in contact with any of them.
Katie turned to face the group, only to find them all collapsed in a pile fast asleep. Her eyes grew wide with fear.
No. Don't tell me they got to her.
Katie leaped over the pile of tourists as she felt her eyelids become heavy. She stumbled down the hall, trying to find somewhere to hide before the sleepiness overtook her completely. If she was correct and the symbiotes bonded with one of the creatures in the bunker, then they'd all be sitting ducks. Katie's vision began to blur as she threw open a cabinet that was mostly empty. She hastily threw out the few pieces of equipment that were still in there, climbed inside, and closed the door.
I'm so sorry.
Tears rolled down Katie's face as her eyes shut and she was thrown into darkness. Katie awoke to nothing but black. There was nothing around her as far as she could see, just emptiness. And yet she could hear the echoes of her own sobbing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you really, though?
Katie's head shot up and she looked around. She hugged her knees even tighter. She could have sworn that she heard a voice, but she didn't see anyone that it could have belonged to.
Hello? Hi, Katie. How have you been?
The voice sounded so familiar, but she couldn't place exactly where she knew it from.
Who are you? You don't know? I'm a little hurt that you don't recognize me. After all, you heard what the space dog said. We haven't changed at all.
Bars flew up around Katie, trapping her. A red mist began to swirl as a version of Katie stepped out of it. This version had white hair and pale skin. The mist wrapped around her, forming a smoky dress as she approached the trapped Katie.
Why don't we take a little trip down memory lane? Maybe then you'll understand.
Several videos began appearing in the mist. One of them depicted a younger version of Katie getting a call from one of her friends. They had been arrested and needed money for bail. The younger Katie claimed she didn't have that kind of money, expressed sympathy, and hung up the phone as the scene changed. Katie was wearing the same clothes as she pulled the lever on a slot machine. The Katie behind bars tried to look away, but another scene started playing. This one showed an even younger Katie, erasing the name on one of her classmates' papers and replacing it with her own. A third scene appeared, showing Katie's car speeding away while a woman tried to chase her down. Clearly unsuccessful, the woman returned to her car that was completely totaled from the back.
Stop it! I don't want to see any of this!
Aw, but we're just getting to the best part.
The red mist faded away as a wall of flames erupted before Katie and her sinister counterpart. The silhouette of a building could be seen through the flames, and the screams echoed around the void as Katie stood in horror. Tears began streaming down her face again.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
For so long, you've put yourself above all. Sometimes it wasn't a big deal. At least not for you. Others have paid the price for your selfishness, and you just let it happen. Again, and again, and again.
Enough! I've made mistakes, and I've done selfish things in the past, but I've been better. I'm not a bad person.
Is that so?
The void changed one final time, this time showing two scenes at once. The first was Katie ordering the tourist to create the feedback distraction and then blaming him for her getting hurt. The other showed the group of tourists fast asleep in a pile on the ground. Katie couldn't tell if the second one was a glimpse into the real world or not, but everything else she had been shown were her own memories, so she could only hope the tourists were still alive.
You didn't even think twice about saving your own skin when you realized the symbiotes could have bonded with Yol. You knew about her powers to put people to sleep, recognized the danger of the situation, and ran away to save yourself. Trying to hide away was a smart move. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very effective one. Good luck.
The red smoke began to pick up again, swirling all around Katie. She pushed herself against the bars, reaching out for her counterpart as she disappeared into the mist.
No! Don't go! I've changed! I'm sorry! I'm sorry.
Katie heard the noises before she opened her eyes. It was the snarls of one of the symbiotes that bonded to the park's creatures. She slowly opened her eyes, unsure of where she would find herself based on her dream version's final words. To her surprise, she was still in the cabinet she had originally hid inside, making her question exactly what was meant by her dream saying hiding wasn't an effective move. She pushed the cabinet door open a crack and peeked through the slit. With all seeming to be still, Katie crawled out from her hiding spot and surveyed the area. The floor was littered with bottles and cans of various liquids from Katie's hasty attempt to find a hiding spot. She picked up a few and examined them, looking for a specific symbol on them. Once she found the can she was looking for, she threw open several drawers before she came across a lighter. Slowly, she retraced her steps back to the hall of creatures that she abandoned the tourist in. As expected, one of the creatures was standing in the hall with its back to the entrance. Katie slowly got closer to the symbiote, raised the can and the lighter, and held down her fingers to ignite the spray can. Instantly, the creature began screaming in pain as it wriggled around in the flames. The symbiote separated itself from the white and gray creature and began to crawl away before collapsing into ash. The creature that was bonded to it fell as well, having succumbed to the flames. Katie winced as she saw the creature stop moving. It hadn't been her intention to kill it. She just needed to get the symbiote away from the tourists, and she had no means of making high-pitched frequencies in the bunker. She paused for a second before running over to where she left the tourist, though she didn't have to get too close. Where there was once a pile of sleeping tourists, there was now nothing. Katie's knees hit the floor. She was too late. Her actions got others killed again, and to make it worse, one of the park's creatures was gone as well.
Why does this keep happening? Why can't I be better?
Katie continued to lay on the floor until she thought she heard someone groan. She looked around, but she couldn't see anyone, only the creatures. Then the groans were followed by a dull tapping of glass. Katie craned her neck to get a look at the cases, but still couldn't see anyone. She picked herself up and walked towards the end of the hall towards Cammy's containment exhibit. To her surprise, all the tourists were inside. Katie remembered that she had left the door to Cammy's cell open when she was calling her before the tourists had passed out. She rushed over to them and entered her code to open the door again. They all groaned as they spilt out of the cell, having to hide within a cramped space for so long.
Sorry about that, everyone. I'm glad you were all able to get someplace.
The group just stared daggers at her. She was gone when they awoke and had to rush to cram all of them into the cell to survive.
You left us to die! I know, and I'm truly sorry about that. But I'm here now, and we're going to get out of this park.
She turned to another tourist, the one who had held the microphone.
And I'm sorry for screaming at you when I got hurt. What you did was insanely brave, and I cannot thank you enough for saving us. You are a hero. Now, let's get out of here.
All is forgiven.
Wait, why should we go with you? You'll just leave us again at the next minor inconvenience. I promise that I won't. Besides, I'm the only one who knows the full layout of the park, so I'm the best to guide you out of here.
The tourists all silently considered this for a moment before yielding and following Katie out of the bunker. Katie and the group made their way back towards the lobby area of the park, hoping this time there would be a shuttle waiting for them. Before they left the bunker, Katie had grabbed a walkie-talkie and called for evacuation from someone outside of the park. They made it most of the way when a loud rustling came from just off the main path. Katie and the group stopped short as another symbiote creature hybrid jumped out at them. This one was the size of a dog, except it had 6 legs, a large tail, and its back was covered in hard plating. All the tourists looked to Katie, anxious about what she was going to do, half expecting her to leave them and run. Instead, she pulled out the spray can and a lighter and pointed it towards the creature.
I'll distract this thing and lure it away from the path. When I do, run to the lobby. There should be a shuttle waiting to take you away from here. Everyone got that?
Everyone nodded. Katie lit the lighter and pressed down on the spray can, sending a pillar of fire over the creature. It shrank away from the flames, and once they died down, the creature turned its attention to Katie. Katie nodded at the group and began running back the way they came, the creature following right behind her. Katie kept running until she was sure the tourist had enough distance to make it to the lobby, should the creature decide she wasn't worth the chase. She stopped running and turned to face the creature, holding up the spray can and the lighter once more. She was about to send another pillar of flames its way when a loud sound rang out. Katie recoiled and covered her ears as the creature screamed in pain. When she looked back up, she saw several men standing over the creature with a net, and another one carrying a heavily sealed container with the symbiote in it.
It's okay, ma'am. You're safe.
A burly man in a tactical vest approached her.
If you want to make your way to the lobby, we have vehicles ready to evacuate any guests and employees.
Confused and still recovering from the sound, Katie began walking away from the scene. She glanced over at the creature and saw it struggling against its captors.
You can let it go. It's no longer bonded to the symbiote.
We fully intend to let it go. We just want to run a few tests first. Run along now. I trust you know your way to the lobby?
Katie silently nodded and continued walking. She got to a turn in the road, and as she took it, risked one last look back at the creature. The men in vests had it on a leash and were guiding it into the back of the truck. Katie squinted to try and make out the logo on the side, but it was too faded. However, she was able to make out what the guy who spoke to her was saying into his radio device.
Target acquired. Call him and make the offer.
The guard turned and began walking towards the truck. As soon as he got in, the truck slowly began pulling away. Katie came out from behind the corner and cautiously began running behind the truck, hoping she wouldn't be spotted in the mirrors. She inched her way closer and closer until she was able to jump onto the back of the truck. She held on to the bar as the truck pulled away from MSM Park. She risked Risked. She risked a glance.
Ah, Luke.
This by far has been my most ambitious story on the channel, and I gotta say, I'm super happy with how it turned out, especially with where I have it going next. But you'll just have to wait to find out exactly what I mean by that. But thank you all so much to everyone who submitted, and of course, as always, a special thank you and congratulations to those who were chosen: Comic Fan 13, Ark, Apple Flavors, and Ven. And now it's time for the July Recreations prompt. It's a little extra work, but I believe in all of you. I want you all to design one superhero character and one super villain character. Please provide a full body and a headshot of each, so 4 drawings in total, and I will be taking one submission from each person and combining them with the other from another person. So, for example, I would take person A's hero design and fuse it with person B's villain design. I think this one could be a lot of fun. All details are on the screen, as well as the submission date and where you can submit it. And that's all I've got for you today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. My name is KyngPin Creations, and I will see all of you in the next video. Take care, everyone.